There is not a lot of people here. Most of the people that are here are paid to be here, it looks like. Because there's a lot of, we'll say it's corporate sponsored by some corporations. But they did remove the fencing, so we got that going for us. Fire department had a flag up there. It's kind of curled over. Music earlier, but we'll go check out. Looks like they're playing a video now.
We took off and nobody knew. Coincidentally, as we turned northwest towards Potomac River out of Andrews, and then
check out this video.
Potomac River towards Reagan National Airport, our first inkling of something that went wrong occurred then when we were notified by ATC if we could get on a certain vector and fly towards an unknown aircraft flying around it. They know that there is an aircraft very close to restricted space, Capitol, the White House, that they can't talk to, they can't identify, they have no idea what's going on. They know they have an aircraft that's traveling at 400 knots and is presumably heading straight towards Washington. This is in the span of seconds, really, because by the time you're approaching Reagan, by the time you're over Reagan, you're right on top of the Pentagon. They said, "Can you see this aircraft?" At that very moment, the aircraft went through our windscreen from left to right, Flight 77, and dived right into the Pentagon.
Yeah, landing Pentagon. Looks like a landing Pentagon. Go for 06, you can maintain 3 valves.
When we got on the stairwell in 63, we went down about a flight or two of steps, and all of a sudden you couldn't breathe. For a long time, I called it white smoke. You couldn't see anything, but you couldn't breathe. And what it turned out to be was the jet fuel. When the jet hit, the jet fuel went down the elevator shafts, and there were ducts on the elevator shaft that were pumping it through into the stairwell. We got to around the 28th floor, and we saw the firemen coming up. And everybody kind of stopped at that point and let them pass. It was the whole company from Rescue 1. I remember patting them on the back and telling them good luck and take care. They gave us hope. I mean, that was the first time when we saw them, we said, oh, we might get out of here. We were coming down the stairwell, everything was pretty orderly, and all of a sudden, the tower shift. You could feel the tower shift and creak and moan, and everybody in the stairwell stopped and looked up because we all thought, oh my God, whatever hit or whatever happened, this thing has come down on us. And we all stood there. It probably wasn't even that long, maybe 15 seconds, just looking up thinking, oh, this isn't good. And then when we realized nothing was going to happen, we kept going. But it was when the South Tower got hit, the concussion rocked the North Tower pretty hard. That's what we were hearing and what we were feeling in the tower. We exited these stairs on the mezzanine. When I came around, all I could see was airplane parts and seats and bodies and all of that. So we walked us through the plaza and then up the stairs at the other end, and that was where the end of the plaza was. And there was a policewoman up there, and she said, don't turn around, don't stop, keep moving. And that was the area where all the firemen were. And those 200 or 300 firemen that died were standing on that plaza trying to get organized. What are we going to do? And we probably looked up and were crushed by the building. The policewoman we went by, she died on the site too. She was one of the last bodies that they recovered from the site. In New York at the time, there was a phone booth on every corner. I pick up the phone, I call home, collect, and it goes right through. And I don't even know how that happened. And my wife picked up the phone and she just breaks down and crying. And it's me, and we cried for about 10 minutes. And then she told me about the Pentagon.
Shortly following the Pentagon incident, they had grounded all aviation nationwide. And at one time, it was thought that the Gopher 6 was a holy airplane flying. There were the mobile satellite eyes in the sky that was able to give the strategic planners and assessment team what they needed and when they needed it, so they could immediately do what was necessary to defend the nation. So now we're moving on to Western Maryland and through Pennsylvania, when we're again notified we have an aircraft. Can you identify? And our lead minister, Robin Todd, did look out the window and was able to identify a large plume of smoke about 18 miles away.
The smoke was from the wreckage of Flight United 93, which had crashed as passengers fought to take back control from the terrorists.
The assumption was that it was bound eastward for Washington, D.C., and that the hijackers were overtaken by the passengers. They did a fine job of protecting the nation's capital. We're just fortunate things didn't unfold as they had intended.
My name is Mariah Jacobson. I live in Northfield, Minnesota with my husband David and my 3 young kids, Rory, Reese, and Quinn. I'm a practicing attorney and a native St. Paulite, but currently Northfield, Minnesota is home.
Oh, look at there's Tom.
Tom Burnett was my dad, and on Flight 93, on September 11th, he changed the course of American history. Tom was seated towards the front of the aircraft. He was traveling home to San Francisco to see my stepmom, Dina. He caught an early flight out of New York. He'd been in New York for business. My understanding is that once the hijackers made themselves known and killed one of the passengers on the flight, Tom called Dina. He called her 4 times from the plane. The first time he called, he said, "Our flight's been hijacked. I don't know what to do." Dina was actually a flight attendant. Dina's training told her, "There's a hijacking. Be quiet, sit still, don't draw any attention to yourself." And so that's what she told him. Over the course of their subsequent phone calls, Dina began to piece together, through what she was watching on the news, that this was a broader attack. This was not specific to Tom's plane. This was happening on multiple aircraft at the same time. After the plane crashed into the Pentagon, Tom called back again after the Pentagon crash for a final time, and he told her that they're going to do something. He and a group of passengers were going to get together and they were going to do something. And that was the last time she heard from him. Maybe it would have been easier for them to sit back and just hope for the best. Maybe it would have been easier to sit back and let somebody else lead the charge. But they didn't do that. He and the other passengers on that plane got together and they did absolutely everything in their power to make sure that that plane did not kill more people than had already been killed that day. And in the process, they sacrificed themselves. I think that it was maybe the first act of fighting back on September 11th that we know of. Flight 93 was really a symbol of we as Americans are not going to sit back and let terrorists destroy
I don't
our country,
know
our
if
way
they
of
had
life.
more planned speakers or if it's just a
I
movie,
absolutely think that it was
movie session.
it was a very powerful moment for us as a country.
But there are honestly not very many people here.
My oldest son knows Grandpa Tom died in a plane crash because there were some bad men on the plane. My 4-year-old girls are not quite old enough to really understand any of that yet. Most importantly,
Even in
my husband and
the
I really try to model the behavior that we hope that our
the
kids will
9/11
someday
VIP families
exhibit themselves.
pavilion, there's a whole
Be
ton of
decisive,
people.
act boldly, be brave. I just feel so blessed to have him as my father.
But yeah, hard to see those screens in the sun. They have them just hanging from forklifts. Should call OSHA on this setup.
In the aftermath of 9/11, the U.S. military began plans to target the terrorist group Al Qaeda.
So there's the bell. We'll go get a close-up of the bell here.
Who had harbored them.
It's pretty cool.
As a commander of the 75th Ranger Regiment, Joseph Votel was central to the military's response.
Tell our audience, why were you going into Afghanistan? 9/11 happens, why are you landing?
Well, it was very, very early on, we identified Afghanistan as kind of the locus for where Al-Qaeda was operating from. And of course, they were being supported by the Taliban government. And it's important for Americans to recognize it wasn't just the Taliban, it was the Taliban government that was in charge in Afghanistan and had given safe haven to Al-Qaeda, and in particular to Osama bin Laden. And where a lot of the planning and coordination for this operation.
So they have a lot of
had taken
reserved
place.
seats. I
So
think those
very
are all
early
reserved.
on, the administration at the time, the Bush administration, had recognized that if we were going to hold somebody responsible, that person was in Afghanistan, and that's when we need to strike a blow. And so that's what brought us to Afghanistan at that particular time.
These weren't large American forces, these were special
No.
forces. Talk about that decision to go small, unconventional.
So, well, Afghanistan, when you think about Afghanistan, it's a landlocked country. It's an operation just to get to Afghanistan, much less to do anything when you get there. You have to fly over mountains, you're flying over vast areas of desert, very forbidding terrain. There's not a lot of infrastructure in place. And so the decision that was made was that we're going to conduct our operations both in the south,
What do you think,
southern
guys?
part of
Should we
the
call
country, and the
OSHA on
northern
them?
part of the country with small forces, largely built around special operations forces.
From the first days, Minnesotans were on the front line in Afghanistan. After 9/11,
He's
a
taking the
small
trailer
group of
away with a
Special
little
Forces
handheld thing.
soldiers was assigned to protect Hamid Karzai, who had emerged as a potential leader for a post-Taliban government.
I don't know where all the people are.
Mike
kinda what
McElhaney
I'm
was part
wondering.
of the Special Forces group assigned to eliminate Taliban forces and protect Karzai.
Some guys had been to war on the team, some guys had not. And
They had
every war is
the-
a little bit different. And based on the intel reports,
things
how these
out at
guys
some
do
point.
things, it was scary. We were hearing about how these assassinations were going down, and there was going to be no surrender, I guess you could say. Getting captured was not like an option. You've got your mission. Our mission was a simple kill and capture Al Qaeda and conduct an insurgency, basically to roust the Taliban. We thought we had months to prepare for war. Well, like the second night there, we started getting probed by the Taliban.
Mike's unit was involved in multiple firefights with enemy forces. Mike was wounded by an errant U.S. bomb and ultimately lost his arm. Today, Mike serves veterans statewide through his work for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs.
My dominant arm, my right arm, below the elbow, amputated. Scars on my legs from shrapnel. Still have shrapnel. I can sit outside with shorts on and whatnot and see little pieces here and there and scars.
Well,
These things happen. I was proud to do it. If I knew the circumstances were going to
I
be the
gotta see
same,
the chopper
I'd do it
take
again
off.
exactly the same way, because I think we did what we were asked to do, and I think we did it well.
Minnesotans played a role in military operations in Afghanistan for 2 decades. David Wynn deployed with the 82nd Airborne Division in early 2002.
I felt the urge to get out and be part of something bigger and greater than myself. I remember very clearly September 11th, I was in my kitchen and my dad called me and he was very concerned. And he asked me if, are you okay? Is everything okay? And I'm like, I don't know why you're even. And then I saw on the news what was going on. And it was probably one of the most sobering moments of my entire life. I knew that I had just joined the service and that what was going on right now was going to directly impact my journey.
Over there.
They asked the trainees and they said, well, now who wants to join the airborne group? And it was just dead silent in the room. And so I was like, we're going to do this. When we arrived to Afghanistan, I remember very clearly landing in the C-130 and waiting for the back tailgate to open up. And I remember looking at the back tailgate and being like, I can't believe this is happening. Like this, it wasn't that long ago that I was at my house in Minnesota. I remember the airfield. We landed at Kandahar airfield in Afghanistan, and it was just this vast, barren desert. It felt like it was the Wild West.
David completed ROTC at the University of Minnesota alongside Andrew Bunderman.
Andrew was a brilliant tactician. He could come up with things on the fly that you wouldn't think were possible.
The situation in Afghanistan remained volatile for many years. By 2009, Andrew Bunderman had been placed in charge of combat outpost Keating in northern Afghanistan, which was attacked by Taliban forces in the fall of that year.
We got to Cop Keating, and when I say we, I mean Bravo Troop, in end of May of 2009. And there were 2 platoons down at Cop Keating, which was in the bottom of a very austere bowl in northeast Afghanistan. I was in charge of the COP. And then on the morning of October 3rd, our unit was attacked by roughly 300 to 400 Taliban fighters. We were about 53 in numbers. That enemy action right there was one of the situations where a series of events leads you to a place in life that you never thought you would be, and you have to use everything you've gathered to that point in time to successfully do what you're supposed to do and come out on top. The rate of incoming fire, both direct and indirect, was overwhelming. I mean, when indirect fire hits, even when it's a little ways away, you can feel it, right? I mean, there's this wave of that air moving or other debris.
Hard to see the strain on the stream, huh? But yeah, I don't know, man.
Not only your ears, your eyes, you can feel.
We'll take you guys over to the helicopter. So this is the St. Paul Capitol Mall right here. They're having a 9/11 memorial, I guess, memorial movie. Not a lot of people are honestly interested in it.
So that you can decrease
But there isn't a whole bunch of people here, really.
Of the battlefield.
His outnumbered men eventually repelled the sustained and well-coordinated.
They took the bell down to there.
Andrew Bunderman was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. Staff Sergeants Clinton Robichet and Ty Coleman were awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions.
We spent the entire day.
But I don't think I did the live with the cathedral. That bus has a chimney on top. I didn't notice that. The details.
Try to think about what their families have had to go through and then continue to move past. 89 kids, everybody go around, understand the lessons and the joy.
Oh yeah, they have a couple of National Guard vehicles there.
We need to really be thankful.
Humvee and some bigger vehicle, I guess. Not sure exactly which one. And then
Ben Cobb served in the U.S. Army and was deployed to Afghanistan in 2001.
I will let my grandfather strove the strongest my grandfather encouraged
the chopper. I want to see what it takes off. I think I'm obligated, right? To get that takeoff shot.
When Ben was 7, my grandpa put up a clean fish. And he said, how are they going to learn? You know, allowed to try. It's my grandfather's service that caused my son to join the military. 9/11 to Ben was personal. To him, it was a mockery of his great grandfather's service. And he made a declaration as we were watching the footage together in his bedroom that when he was old enough, he was going to find himself in line, become an Army Ranger. He left for basic training just 1 month after he graduated from high school, 1 month from day. And 7 months later, he was assigned to the 3rd Battalion Regiment. And then comes the spring of 2009, and they're on their way to Afghanistan. They were given advance knowledge that they could expect heavy combat. They were going into what they called a hot zone, a place that hadn't been visited by combat for a long time. There was a firefight with the Taliban. There was 3 Ranger snipers who had been down and had nowhere to go. They called in for backup, and backup would come.
So yeah, I don't think they often park a helicopter on the Capitol Mall here.
He was a gun team leader.
So
So
it's
Ben came forward.
definitely the first time I've ever seen that.